do to open up, you'll each have 3 minutes to give us your background, whatever you want to talk about. This is an opportunity for our guests out here to learn about you, who you are, what you're about. This is a get to know our candidates. It's not a mudslinging contest. We do that about 300 yards in the normal direction. So we want to, it's up to you. So let me just make a couple of announcements, and then Michelle, you go first. If anyone needs to use a restroom, they're outside this main door. If anyone wants to join the LGLA, there's cards out there in white that you can fill out, and it's still $20. Inflation has not taken place in the LGLA. Here's a timer. We need to be ready to go out of this building by 8:45. The last thing is, if you have any questions that you would like to ask tonight of the candidates, you need to fill them out right now and get them turned in to me up here so I can ask them. If not, then we've got some questions up here already. Would appreciate that there's no applause for candidates. Hold your applause until the end of the meeting, and then we'll give all of them a hand. So without any further ado, Michelle, you have 3 minutes, and you are timed. After the first 3 minutes, you get 1 minute to answer questions.
Okay, thanks so much. Thank you for having me here. I really appreciate that. Good evening, everyone. My name is Michelle Santa Maria. I'm a local. I moved here when I was 9 months old, went to all the local schools, H.L. Johnson Elementary School, Crestwood Middle School, and at the time when I was growing up, we didn't even have a high school around here, so I had to go out to West Palm Beach. When I think back to when I was a kid growing up around here, and when I went to high school, I had to drive down Okeechobee. I remember the days when you drive down Okeechobee and you just cruise. There weren't really many cars going around. You'd look to your left and you'd look to your right. It was very different than it is today. You'd see a lot of forests on both sides, which don't exist anymore. After growing up here, I went off to school. I obtained my undergraduate degree in finance from the University of Florida, my master's in business administration from Rollins College, and then a law degree from Stetson Law School because it was #1 in the nation. I came back to my hometown right here in Palm Beach County and became a criminal prosecutor because I wanted to fight the good fight and get rid of criminals from our streets, with the men in green here. I did that for several years, and then I started my own business. I combined both my business degrees with my law degree, and I created my own curriculum, training law enforcement witnesses on testifying in court to help prevent crime from happening over and over again so that you wouldn't be re-victimized. It started locally, spread throughout the nation, and was eventually picked up by the Federal Bureau of Investigation within 2 years. Now, I'm running for county commission to remember the place that I grew up in and continue the legacy that my father started here. The main focus is that I'm committed to providing to you, which my father has provided for you, is continuing to have honesty in government and protecting our quality of life. The life that I remember when I was a kid, when I grew up, that is slowly being eaten away by special interests and builders and developers. Growth and development is going to happen. It's a part of life, but we can have compatible, responsible, and intelligent growth. But honesty in government is paramount. If you do not have that, we've got to hold our elected officials to a higher standard of honesty. It seems like a simple concept. I teach it to my witnesses all the time. But if you don't have honesty, you don't have anything. Make sure we protect our quality of life and have honesty in government, and we need to do it together. Thank you.
Thank you for having us. My name is Andy Schaller. I moved to Florida in 1983 when I came here for college. In '87, I graduated, moved to Boynton Beach, and in 1990, I bought my first of 2 homes in District 6. Both of them Our agricultural exempt properties, one could be, I moved off of that. Horse community properties. I own a barn in Wellington. I created a dressage facility that caters to the Winter Equestrian Festival. My daily driver out in the driveway you can see is a dually. I'm a big pro Second Amendment supporter. I used to have a federal firearms license for 14 years. I like the lifestyle. I chose it. This is where I've made my forever investments. I'm a business owner. For the last 20 years, I've owned a business called Palm Beach Financial Exchange. I've handled more than 550 businesses across the U.S. and Puerto Rico. I have an electronic banking company that's recurring transactions. I handle the money for places like World's Gym, Powerhouse Gym, church tithing, boat storage, mini storage, property associations. In the last 20 years, I've never raised my rates one time. In the last 17 years, I haven't advertised for business, and I've never had a contract with any of my customers, because you're as good as your last at bat. If somebody never felt that I was doing a proper job, I should never hold them financially liable with their livelihood of their business to a contract. I've always run on my word. At one time, I had an unlimited unsecured line of credit through the Federal Reserve on my word. The state of Tennessee used to teach their auditors how to run the model for a business in electronic banking based upon using my company as a model. In the 90s, when I purchased my first home west of Lake Worth Road, west of 441 by Lake Worth Road, back when there was not a lot of development along 441, I got involved with the first time going to the county. I got involved again in 2008. In the last 6 years, I've pretty much not missed a single county commission meeting, and if I have, I've either watched it on TV or listened to it on the radio through my cell phone. You can hear all the meetings through your telephone, and I play it through Bluetooth. From that time, I realized that there was many different things that I could do, many ways for me to apply myself. I've spoken in front of the county commission on many things, including the medical arts district, but the one near and dearest to my heart was preservation of lifestyle and property rights. And that's why I've been around for the last 6 years fighting for a neighborhood. I've been able to build board consensus. I've been through 13 county commissioners in the last 6 years, 5 board chairs, and 2 mayors. And I've received a unanimous board consensus to finally fix the project that I came to the county with in 2008. And as we speak right now, you can see my truck is covered with dirt. The county is finally fixing what they started. Thank you.
Good evening, Melissa McKinley. First, let me apologize for being in jeans. I was actually out at the National Night Out Against Crime in Pahokee. It's a little more casual there. Didn't have time to come home and change. I guess I'm the newest one in the community. I've been here for just over 10 years. I moved to Wellington in 2004, but I moved to Florida in 1977. I'm a product of the local school system, the public school system in Florida, and a graduate of Florida State University, if we have any Knowles in the house. I'm also a parent. I have 3 beautiful children. They're 16, 14, and 13. I'm glad we're ending at 8:45 because I have to pick my son up at fire rescue. He's in the Explorers program there. I've been giving back to the community since I moved here. I'm really the only candidate here with a strong record of volunteer community service. But the reason I got into the race was last September, during the budget discussions, there was a decision that the county commission discussed. They eventually altered that a little bit, but our current county commissioner supported it as well. And it's the only time in the 4.5 years that I've been working for Palm Beach County in their legislative affairs office that I actually walked into the county administrator's office and told him I was upset with the decision that he made. You see, we have 5 programs in this county called, or 5 centers called Youth Empowerment Centers. And those centers provide homework assistance and tutoring skills and, arts and culture type of mentoring, educational programs. They also provide a lot of those kids with the last meal that they're going to get before they go back to school the next day. And the county commission, 2 of them made a decision to cut the funding for those youth empowerment centers in the same amount that some of the cities owed the county in an inspector general fees. And I want to be clear, I completely support 100% the Office of the Inspector General and the Ethics Commission, and I commend our current commissioner for all the work that he's done over the years. But as a mother I believe that you hold children harmless, especially when you're dealing with the most at-risk youth in the most at-risk areas of this county. And so about 3.5, 4 weeks after the county made that decision, I filed to run for office. I bring to the table over 20 years of experience at the federal, the state, and the local level, both as an employee and as a volunteer. I've trained women across the state of Florida on how to be effective advocates on behalf of women, children, and family issues. I've been part of the county team that's gone up to Tallahassee the last few years and brought back millions of dollars in infrastructure funding so that the tax burden doesn't always rest on the local taxpayers' shoulders, that we spread that a little bit. And we're able to do much needed infrastructure improvements that we haven't been able to do the last few years. So I bring that experience, I bring my heartfelt desire to just make this a better community and keep the quality of life that we all enjoy while trying to handle some of the changes that are ultimately going to head our way. And I'm doing this because of my kids and all of the kids that they actually, if they go off to college, they have something to come back to. So thank you for having us tonight.
Thank you. Appreciate it, all of you. One thing I want to bring to your attention. Lox Groves is a part of the greater Loxahatchee. The folks here are primarily from Loxahatchee Groves, although there are a few others that are from our neighboring communities. So we want to focus your attention on the fact that the questions that you have asked of you concern health problems here in Loxahatchee Groves. So with that, Bill Loud has submitted a couple of questions. Would you want to read them? You want me to read them?
Oh, I agree, we just forgot them. I'd like to get them verbatim, you can get them written down.
Okay.
So what order are they going in? I'm not gonna, everybody gets a chance to answer.
Everybody gets it.
I don't want to aim it at one person.
No, no, sir.
Okay.
You'll start with Michelle because she's the lucky one.
Well then, hopefully it'll rotate who starts.
Yeah, it'll rotate.
So we got, there's Robert rules of order and then there's Billy Bob. Anyway, dear candidate, please answer this question, yes or no, without any follow-up discussion regarding your answer.
Oh dear.
Just yes or no, that's all we want. Do you support Minto West's present proposal? Yes or no only? Thank you.
The increase?
The present proposal.
No.
Next.
No.
No.
Okay.
Question number 2.
Okay. Please tell us about your fiscal campaign support and how you feel, or will you feel any obligation to look favorably upon request of your donors, even if their proposals might seem only in their financial interest? Thank you.
It's not an issue for me. I pretty much self-funded my own campaign in 2010, and for the most part I'm doing it now also with some contributions from a handful of real friends. I'm beholden to no one. I have the ability, if I chose to put my own funds in further. I don't believe I need to at this time. The 6 years of experience I have with the county, the standing that I have with my business background, I believe does not require me to buy an image to then move forward to try to get me elected to a new job. I'm giving back to the community because I desire, and I'm not doing it for a job or a pay increase.
I have been very fortunate to receive a variety of financial support for my campaign from all walks of life, from our business community, from our individuals, from our firefighters and law enforcement. I'm happy to have that support. My contribution, I've taken about 9 to 10 total weeks of unpaid leave from the county. I'm not in a position where I can self-fund my campaign. I've counted on community support and I'm very grateful to have received that support. However, that does not make me beholden to anybody, and anybody that's contributed to my campaign has been told that clearly. It takes money to run a campaign. You can't do it without it. So that's the reality. But no, I'm not beholden to any special interest just because they contributed to my campaign.
I do not accept any campaign contributions from any builders or developers. My only concern is representing what the majority of the people of the community want, no strings attached.
Thank you. The next. The next. Did I get to get
We can hear you loud.
Get I don't need that anyway. All right, and this question is from Dennis Lip, who wasn't able to be here tonight. He's got two questions, but they're sort of combined. So let me start with the first one. The first topic is Palm Beach Sheriff Rick Bradshaw. Number one, do you believe that the budget of the Palm Beach Sheriff's Office, PBSO, should be open and transparent? Number two, PBSO's annual budget is approximately 47% of the county's entire ad valorem expenditure. It, by the way, went up $20 million this year over last year. If you were elected to the Board of County Commissioners, what would you do to open up the PBSO budgeting process? Number three, how far would you go to have more control over the sheriff's budget? Let's start with that, and then I'll hit you with the second question.
All in 1 minute, thank you.
Okay, whose turn is it now?
It's mine. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what you're asking. Of course, I would be supportive of requesting that the sheriff make his budget more transparent. Unfortunately, under statute, we're not governed, or we're not able to go and require him to do anything. So that would take a state change of the legislature to change Florida statute to require him to do that. And, you know, as far as the whole budget being transparent, I would love to see the entire budget process become more transparent. I spent 5 years working in the budget department in Sarasota County, and in that budget department, we held workshops for 2 weeks every summer, where every constitutional officer and every county department came before the commission in a workshop setting, completely sunshine and open to the public, and they went through the budget line by line voluntarily. The constitutional officers, of course, the county departments were required. We don't do anything like that here, and if I'm elected, I would like to institute a process that does that, to make it even more transparent and try to work and encourage a good working relationship with the sheriff and see if we can't bring him on board and make it more open to the public.
Okay, thank you.
Was there, did I get all that?
Yeah, let's go to the round.
Yes, I would agree to making the budget more transparent, and in order to open it up, I would sit down and try to communicate all the benefits to the community as a whole to being more transparent with the budget. There have been sometimes citizens who have criticized the sheriff's budget and what's going on. If it is more transparent, the benefit of transparency, you could actually get more citizens on board if they fully understood the reasoning and the importance of all of the different aspects of the sheriff's office and what it encompasses.
There's something we could do at the county commission level. The sheriff is a constitutionally elected officer, and he has to bring his budget in front of the county commission. If the county commission does not accept his budget, then the process is to send it up to the governor. The governor has the panel that then reviews the budget. We could very easily, as 7 people here, ask or force the sheriff to have a review by Tallahassee. That's number one. Number two, I have said since 2010 that I believe we ought to do that. Because if the sheriff is not forthcoming with voluntarily opening the budget up, then we need to see it. It is for both sides. It's protection of the sheriff, it's protection of us as the people. Because when the budget is is made known to be 531 million. It's really not. Add another 140 million on top of that for the facilities that house the sheriff's office. So if somebody says $600 million is an accurate number, I'd say compared to what? Because if you don't have a barometer or benchmark to compare it to, he may be under, and we should praise him. He may be over, and we may need to govern his activities a little more. But the question would get down to as compared to what? And until 7 members, or at least 4 of the county commission stand up, if the sheriff will not open his budget, then 4 members of the county commission need to open it for him, and then we have a barometer to always go forward, and there's never any question.
Okay, thank you. Question number 2. As a charter county, our county has 12 wide elected officials. 7 are members of the county commission, as Mr. Santa Maria is. Plus, the sheriff, tax collector, clerk and comptroller, property appraiser, and the supervisor of elections. 1, do you believe that any of these offices should fall under the control of the Board of County Commissioners? A, if so, which one? B, why? C, why not? I think it's a tough crowd to write these questions. Number 2, there are term limits on the members of county commission. That's the reason why a friend has to resign. Well, retire, let's say. Should there be term limits on the constitutional offices? If so, why? Whose turn is it? Yeah, okay.
All right. As far as the different individual offices that you spoke about, and should they be under the control of the county commission, I think they all should be separate, but the one which I didn't hear from you, which is most important for us to remember and gets us back to honesty in government, is the Inspector General. That is critical. We need the independent Inspector General who is not influenced or have any strings attached or cannot be fired by the county commission or influenced in any way, which watches every single one of those offices without any possibility of being taken down by an office. So that way, everything is protected. We're protected as citizens by an independent Inspector General. It's critical. Without law enforcement officers and prosecutors like us, crime is going to happen. Your report that you had would be much higher, but for the existence of people like you and people like myself as a former prosecutor, and we need that. The second part of your question was, refresh my memory really quickly.
Second part of it was, are there term limits? There are term limits on the members of the county commission. Should there be term limits on the constitutional officers? If so, why?
I think it's something to consider for the same reason as the county commission, the same person in office for a long period of time. The benefits of that is someone who's got a history of it, who's got the experience, and if it's working. But at the same time, if you do put term limits in, you can get fresh and new ideas. So there's benefits to both.
Thank you.
I'm going to go backwards with the questions. It was the public that determined term limits through a referendum. If the public wants term limits on any of the other constitutional offices, let the public speak. We take it from there. Second of all, farming community, you don't keep all your eggs in one basket. Why in the world would we take all of our individuality, our separate, for lack of a better term, our judicial, our executive, and why would we put it all together under one? Absolutely keep it separate. This way we can have a number of good people with a number of ideas. We're not building czars or dictators. We're not building a structure where 7 people run 1.3 million people's lives in totality. We need to keep everything separate. We need to keep everything open. But what we do need to do in in my opinion, is to have the same level of service from all constitutionally elected offices, everybody held to the same standards, everybody responsible to the same people, because at the end of the day, we all do represent or are governed by the exact same people. I would not take any more further responsibility onto the county commission off of the constitutionally elected officers that we have now.
Well, this is going to be a good instance of where I agree with Andy on this one. There has to be a system of checks and balances. Having the clerk of court, who's also our comptroller, separate from the commission. Last year, the commission put forward a request for $5,000 to sponsor a table at the mayor's ball, and wanted that on the taxpayers' dime. And that request came to the clerk of court, and Ms. Box said, I don't think so. She denied it. I agree with that decision that she made. If you're all under the same wing, you don't have that system of checks and balances. So I think that they do need to remain autonomous, and the county commission needs to be on its own. As far as term limits, that is a double-edged sword. I agree that was something that went before the voters, and the voters voted in favor of that. But at the same time, sometimes I think that the best indication of term limits is just voting. And if somebody wants someone to stay in office, if there weren't any term limits right now, I highly doubt the three of us would be sitting up here, because Commissioner Santaburia would have run unopposed. I'm sorry, Andy. Yes, Andy would have been up here. I forget my history a little bit there. But obviously, if the voters were pushing in a direction to put term limits in on constitutional officers, of course, I would move that referendum forward. But your vote is the best way to term limit somebody.
Good, thank you. The next one, I've got two questions. Okay. My wife wants me to leave. What relationship do you see between the western communities and the rest of the county? How will you represent us on the county commission to secure that relationship?
Well, the current relationship is an imbalance. There's not an equality of services. We don't have the same level of services. We don't have the same facilities. We don't have the same access that you have in other parts of the county. We haven't had a Western office open in 5 years. People in the Western communities can't get conveniently to their representation. We don't have the same level of service from the clerk and controller's office. When they closed the jail, the clerk's office wanted to use part of the jail as storage facility for files and other things. But there was no money to pull the toilets out, and they were afraid of rat runs going through. Where would that happen in Boca? Where would that happen in Palm Beach Gardens? We're complaining about not having the same level of service with a fire department or a fire station or the sheriff's patrol. I realize now we may not need it here in this town, which is fantastic. But realistically, until there's an equality, the best way to preserve that is to take a leadership role. Open your office. Stand in front of the people. Be accountable. Let the people come to you. Let the people of the Western communities know who you are by sight, not just by name because it's somebody on a wall at the airport. Let them know who you are because you're part of the community. And I can make that happen instantly by continuing to do what I have been doing.
This is a huge district. It's 1,600 square miles. You can fold Palm Beach County in half, and half of it is just District 6. The areas in the far western reaches of our county, all the way I think through the acreage in Lox Groves, have been underrepresented for a number of years. And you can see that when you drive through and you see the infrastructure, when you see the housing facilities, when you see the prevention programs that are in place. Up until a few years ago, you could see that as well in the public school system. But when you look at the fire stations, for instance, I was out at Station 22 in the acreage earlier this week. That station has been in a shopping mall for 15 years in the acreage, costing us about $10,500 a month in rent, under the promise that someday they would build a new station. The apparatus is sitting out in open air. unprotected. They've shorted out a few batteries there because they have to run an extension cord from inside the building to plug in the truck to make sure that it's ready to fire up when they have to go on a call. That station has 3 guys in there, or 3 firefighters, I'm sorry, that are either or firefighters. They get a 911 call, they hop on the ambulance. If it's a medical call, and they go. If it's any other call, those 3 hop on an engine and they go to the other call. Which means if anyone in the service area needs an ambulance and the guys are on the engine, they have to go to another fire station miles away and get somebody to try and cover the area. In the 4 stations I visited on Monday, 2 of them during the time I was there had to relocate their engine elsewhere. So it's not safe. It's not safe. We don't have the coverage we need. We don't have the infrastructure we need. The roads need to be improved. Drainage needs to be improved. I mean, you've all heard the stories about the water pipes and the glades. We're woefully, inadequately supplied with quality infrastructure, and that's something we need to work on. So I believe that this district really should be represented from west to east. In the past, it seems to be represented from east to west, and we need to switch that.
Thank you.